In this video, we're going to share the cost differences for 1 year of staying in an RV park for a month or longer versus under a week. The cost difference is dramatic. You won't believe it. Stay tuned. Keep watching and we'll dive into real numbers and show you the difference between the two very different options, daily rates only versus monthly rates only for a solid year. Because we work full-time, we always stay at RV campgrounds with full hookups. We like the idea of boondocking and thought we would do it more, but probably would if we were retired. Right now, we just don't want to spend the time managing fresh, gray, and black tanks. When you're boondocking, if you don't know, you have no hookups, so you must go add fresh water and dump the gray and black tanks somewhere ever so often. The time between dumps varies a lot depending on the choices people make in their water usage and the tank sizes. There are ways to extend the time in between, but it's not a super comfortable way to live for us. It's easier to be hooked up to fresh water all the time and just open the valves to dump the tanks when it's time. So this video is really relevant only to staying at campgrounds all the time and not with boondocking, since with boondocking you remove probably 95% or more of the cost by staying at campgrounds in comparison. The cost when boondocking is paying for water and dumping when needed, maybe $5 or $10, and then fuel and your time to go take care of it every few days or every week or two, depending on how good you are with conservation. Before we dive into the real numbers, I do want to mention some fairly obvious pros and cons here. By staying places for a shorter time, you will see more of the country than staying a month or more each place. If your goal is to check boxes and see stuff by spending 1 or 2 days at major locations, then this is what you would do. If you want to fully soak in places like Glacier National Park or Custer State Park, where we were last summer and fall, then staying longer affords you the options to take it all in, multiple times, during different times of day, different types of weather, and greatly improving your odds of seeing the most amazing things that each place has to offer. One example, at Custer State Park, our first trip in, we saw exactly 0 bison. The next time we saw 1. Now that one was right next to the road, right up next to our car, so we saw it up close. But eventually we saw a herd of 200 plus bison, and then later a herd of 800 plus bison, because we had the opportunity to go in multiple times while we were in the area. And yes, I do literally count them through the binoculars, so it's more than just simple estimating. I'm going to use amounts and costs from the place we stay in Nebraska when we pass through there seasonally. From what we have seen the last 2.5 years, Pine Grove and Greenwood, Nebraska is the typical price range, very average, not too low, not too high, of the daily versus the monthly cost. So it really is a good average place to use in this example. Okay, so the daily rate at Pine Grove RV Park in Greenwood, Nebraska is $55. This price includes all utilities, even electricity. It's very common for daily rates to include all utilities, including electricity. The monthly rate at Pine Grove RV Park is $675, but this price does not include electricity, which at Pine Grove is billed at 14 cents per kilowatt hour. They have meters, they read them, they charge you based on what you actually use, like almost every RV park we've been to. We have seen electric rates that vary from 11 cents per kilowatt hour to 23 cents per kilowatt hour based on where you are in the country. Now this part is obvious, but keep in mind that these rates at RV parks will vary based on location, season, etc. If we take the daily rate at the Pine Grove RV Park times 365 for a year, that's $20,075. So if we consider that Pine Grove is about an average cost, and in our experience, it really is a very good average of rates that we have seen, then a year of moving every few days will cost you $20,075 because you're not staying a week to get the weekly rate or a month to get the monthly rate. Our example is to show you the extreme if paying daily rates only all the time versus rates for longer stays. If we take the monthly rate at Pine Grove times 12, that's $8,100. That is a difference of $11,975. So let's round up and say $12,000 more that you pay each and every year if you stay at RV campgrounds for less than a week versus staying 1 month or more at each place, based again on the Pine Grove rates as an average. I do want to account for the added cost of electricity when staying monthly, although this will vary widely based on several factors, so I definitely cannot give a definitive cost difference for paying for electricity in long-term stays versus having it included in the daily rate. First, do you have propane, for example? We don't have propane, so we use more electricity to run certain systems like our cooktop and other things that might otherwise be running on propane for you. Instead of a propane furnace, we use electric heat pumps for heat down to 40 degrees outside. We also charge an electric car, which uses far less than the motorhome itself overall, but adds to the electric bill, although it is still considerably less than what gas in a car would cost. It also depends if it's hot outside and if you're running 1 or 2 or 3 or AC units. And also, how well is your RV insulated will affect power consumption as well. There are lots of details about electrical usage, so I'll just use some averages to kind of get a number out there. Our monthly stays have had electric bills ranging from around $75 up to $200 per month on top of the site cost. Even though every month is not $200, if we use that roughly as the extreme worst case from our experience, 200 times 12 is $2,400. So if we just say roughly another $2,000 a year for electric usage, you're still paying $10,000 more per year when you stay less than a week versus a month or longer, even when paying for actual electric usage at the longer term stays. And this may or may not be obvious to you, but if you move more often, you use more fuel. So that drives up your fuel cost, your maintenance cost, wear and tear on your rig, and so on. Staying longer reduces fuel cost and all the rest of those associated costs. Since this type of cost will vary so much from one setup to the next, I'm not going to really try to ballpark that price, but be aware that this cost is significant if you are driving every 3 or 4 days versus being parked for a month or longer each time. This cost is on top of the $10,000 more in campground fees alone by moving around more often. I'll say one more time that boondocking changes everything. If that's how you stay most of the time, or really any of the time, your costs are near zero by comparison to staying at campgrounds. But you must go get fresh water and dump your gray and black tanks every few days or every week or so, depending on your habits. Well, that wraps up our quick discussion on length of stay versus cost of RV parks. If you get any value from this at all, please like the video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. This encourages me, honestly, to keep working on interesting or relevant content here and let YouTube know that we're out here. As always, thank you so much for watching our video.